And welcome everyone to the first episode of Press Coverage, here as part of Going for Two Live. My name is Kyle Senra, and I'll be your host through this journey, looking at the fantasy community, fantasy football, and the people behind making all this great content. Now today, for this first guest, I thought a great guest for that would be Mr. John McCann, better known as J-Mike. So first off, J-Mike, thank you very much for coming on, and how are you doing?
Bro, I'm jazzed to be here. Thank you very much for having me. I'm feeling pretty good. And I'm excited to see you continue to glow up, Senra. So this is good stuff. But thank you for having me. Happy to go on this maiden voyage with you one time here and have a little bit of fun chopping it up.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, shout out to Jeff Lambert for proposing this to me, giving me this opportunity as part of Going for Two again, and everything we do here. And again, appreciate J Mike for coming on. And again, the fantasy community, I think, is the key. Like that's the reason we do this. That's the reason we're putting all these shows on. The audience and the participation. Of course, anyone who wants to participate, feel free to ask any questions in the chat. Here. You can also get us both on Twitter. I'm at Senra Says. J-Mike's at JMikeCheck, I believe. Right? And so, and one thing that you do, J-Mike, is I feel you really bring the fantasy community together in such a great and special way. A few things that you produce include J Mike's Journal, the Dummy Blitz, but probably the most renowned, especially when it comes to the community participation, is the Open Bar. So I'll let you introduce it. What do you want to say about the Open Bar?
I think the real question is what does one say about the Open Bar? It is. My pride, one of my prides and joys. It's something I'm able to co-host with my main man Gabe Gearing. He's on Twitter at FFManBun, and what we've strived to do for a while now with the Open Bar is to make a place where fantasy names, bright and small, and even folks who are brand new to the space or whatever the case may be, that everyone is welcome. Can come in, chop it up, and give the feel of something that is especially like we're at a bar just chopping it up, talking football, talking fantasy, talking life, and a lot of randomness, and a place where everyone can feel welcome. So that's been our goal. I feel like we've been able to do a job of continuing to move that forward, which is fantastic. So I'm grateful for the fact that we've been able to do this for as long as we have. And it's just a space where on Tuesday nights live, we can come in and for an hour and a half plus, a lot of times on the plus side, you can just come in and leave the struggles of your everyday, leave the struggles of your frustration of the world, and just continue to come in and have fun with folks who are like-minded and encouraged and want to be a part of something fun, and that's been our goal, and we've been able to keep doing that for I think like 3 or 4 years now, maybe. So yeah, I'm grateful for it. Faith.
And see Faith dropping in. Thanks, Fantasy Faith. And fantasy is fun. You said the keyword fun, and I think that's part of why we play fantasy football. And is that one of the things that you enjoy most about the fantasy community?
No question. I think that in life, people often want to go to a certain place or be a part of something that they feel can include them, can be a part of something that to some degree is bigger than themselves. And so the fantasy community, I feel like, is very much a microcosm of that. And yes, it's a lot of folks who very much probably enjoy football, a lot of people who enjoy winning, a lot of people who enjoy competing and nerding out in a lot of the ways that we do. But in the same vein, it's a lot of folks who are willing to come together for fantastic causes, to be able to lift each other up. And I think that's my most cherished trait of the fantasy space, is the fact that we can come together and do fantastic things and really move mountains, to be able to encourage folks, lift people up, really highlight fantastic work to be able to be there for one another in hard times. And I will not soon lose that feeling, that yearn to continue to lift each other up and build each other. Like that's an incredibly special thing. So it's probably my favorite thing about the fantasy community. Obviously, the fun, the leagues, all those good things, nerding out and having a space where, again, you yourself, right? I can nerd out over fantasy football, and as opposed to a lot of the in real life, where they look at me sideways like, you do a podcast like every week? Like, what do you talk about every week for like fantasy football? Are you serious? I mean, it's a lot of people who kind of like who get me, right? A lot of people who understand where we come from. So it's really cool.
I mean, and I think not always fantasy football. I think that's the beauty of it is that, it's what the guiding principle that brings everyone together. But I mean, last episode of the Open Bar was mostly about Taylor Swift. I mean, there's very little fantasy football, right? I mean, that was by design too. What up, Jay, and also the Yeti Express. I'm sure you still got no DFS stuff tonight, Jared. Sorry, but yes. So, because you're saying a lot of people around you mentioning, podcasting is, it's surprising, not necessarily expected results. So, what drew you to want to create fantasy content and podcast?
It's so weird how it all shook out. But it was one of those things where, similar to a lot of folks, probably you commish a home league or like people like your friends from college or something, whatever the case is. And I remember that was my first taste of fantasy football. I was just a commissioner for my league of friends at college, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. And I probably nerded out about it way more than they ever did or do, because we still have that league even today. And I remember listening to podcasts specifically, and shout out to Kevin O'Brien, the FF engineer. I remember listening to one of his podcasts, and he had someone from DLF on, and they were just like, and this was probably 3-4 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. He was like, hey, if you have a dream, if there's something that you want to do, like just go out and get it done. Like just go try it. If you want to write, if you want a podcast, you want to, whatever the case is, like go do that. And I distinctly remember thinking in that moment, yeah, like look, why not me? Like I can do this. Like I can be a part of this. And I remember even like really, really silly moments, even after listening to that, Kevin, silly moments within myself where I remember jumping in my first mock draft, and I did the just a really ignorant thing. And looking back, it's like, wow, that was an incredibly new move. But I had went into this draft, and I remember posting on Twitter, asking people like who I should take in this mock. Like, hey, should I take? Like, it was like I remember people commenting on it, and then like, dude, it's a mock. I just wanted to be a part of it so bad, and it was an embarrassing thing.
Or is it the true beauty that you, right off the bat, your initial instinct is community participation? You want to hear from people right away, even if it's just a mock, but you still want that input and want to draw the community together.
I love the way you said that, Senator. I think that's what I'm going to go for from henceforth, is leaning into the fact that, yes, I was simply trying to leverage community involvement early and often in my FF journey, if you will. But that was, I just remember that so vividly. I was like, oh, wow, that was embarrassing. And looking back, it just gets even more embarrassing and funny. But that was when it all started. And I had listened to several podcasts out there, the Dynasty Dummies. Shout out to those guys who have become like brothers to me at this point. Folks over at DHH. A lot of those were kind of my get off the ground podcasts, like understanding and learning more about the game, fantasy footballers. And I distinctly remember my co-host Gabe, and I don't know if I can run into this question now, but yeah, again, Gabe Gearing, that's my guy, and he's become essentially my brother over these last several years. And you talk about the power of fantasy football, like and podcasting in this community. I was able to. He and I were able to meet up a couple of years ago down in College Station, Texas, and just spend half a day together. And he's even come up here to Cincinnati, spent the weekend with me we went and watched the Bengals play the Jaguars, our squad, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And like, he's become a part of my family, and my kids call him Uncle Gabe. So you just talk about the power of all of this. Essentially, I remember going on his first podcast, the Grab Bag Fantasy Football Podcast. And I went on there just to be able to talk about my team. And I remember going on there with Tim Torch, who I had looked up to at the time, as well as someone just, I wanted to learn more, grow in the space. And I remember him, UTH, all those folks. And I really enjoyed my time. I thought it was a pretty cool experience. And I think they went and vouched for me to Tyler Gunther at the time over at DHH. And I just told him that Gunther reached out to me and is like, hey, do you think, I'm looking at doing something with Gabe. And this is the format of kind of what we want to do. We want to call it the DHH Presents the Open Bar. And, this is kind of what we want it to be like. And I said, yeah, like I'd love to give it a shot. Because let's do it. And from there, the rest is history, as they say.
It's an open book, so to speak.
Open, definitely not shut book, indeed.
Oh yeah, for sure. So again, the appreciation of the nerding out. A few comments. Jared mentioned that the Eddie Express. John McGlynn. Funny enough, just before we went on, I was listening to the Goat District, the most recent episode. John's on that, so kind of funny how that worked out. Me listening to a fellow Canadian, of course, and JD, the Goat District, and Gladys. So Monday nights here during the season, we did game previews together. Gladys, tremendous co-host. She also hosted Sunday morning. So yeah, thanks, Gladys. Had fully agreed. Nerds do in fact rule. So you mentioned that you used to be DHH. Seems now more independent. So way to breach that freedom, but. How much different was the open bar that first episode compared to now? Maybe less the Taylor Swift episode last one, but just a traditional, a now contemporary open bar episode.
Yeah, once upon a time, I remember when, I would try to think to I want to come up with a game, and I want to come up with all this cool stuff to try to make me stand out, the show stand out, and I wanted to try to flex all of my knowledge, that all this stuff I was growing in, and I wanted people to think like, oh, like he's respectable, like he knows what he's talking about. He's a reliable source to be able to come to. And my first episode with Open Bar, I remember very vividly, was with one Salito and the homie Jake Anderson. And again, a couple of guys that I've closer to over the years as well. And I just remember being nervous as all get out. I remember struggling and being scared and I just want to keep pace. I want to keep appearances. I want people to recognize like what I can bring to this. And you talk about how time and wisdom and understanding like your lane and all of these different things that can come about when you stop and recognize you don't have to put on a front for people to be able to accept you. You don't have to try to have all the answers. You don't have to try to come up with the latest and greatest game or craze or all these different things. Come in and be you. And so one of the biggest changes from that episode until now, a lot of what we do at the Open Bar now is to just be able to highlight the good stuff that people are out there doing right now. And we can help. One of the things I feel like that a lot of folks have said that we do well at the Open Bar is that we help guide conversation and be able to help people come together and chop it up and share different ideas and maybe even go about giving their takes on these different things. And so being able to guide conversations is something that I feel like I've grown a lot in over that time. And I think that helped facilitate a place of openness, a place of sharing. It's not a place of trying to compete or trying to be better than or trying to even have people look at us as being something that, hey, look at the Open Bar guy. It's we're comfortable with who we are. We're comfortable that we can be your favorite podcast, and just laugh it up and enjoy the lane that we run in without trying to be something that everyone else is trying to chase after or many others are trying to chase after. We just want to do us, prop up the community and enjoy time together.
And as someone who, regularly watches the Open Bar, certainly during the NFL off seasons. I just noticed Faith in here. She's always in there every episode. I'm sure she would speak the same with what 2020 was, and starting especially in March and through there. A lot of isolation, but I feel like the Open Bar was one way that no matter what, you at least had that every week, that everyone would come together for, you say an hour and a half, it's usually 2 hours or more ish. But really that time was so needed, I think, for a lot of episodes. I know one episode in particular, we all really needed it. The episode for James the Brain, really glad that you guys did that. I thought that was something that we all, participated in a live, not live show, but it kind of helped keep them alive for us.
To be able to look back, and obviously 2020 was a year that had it impacted us all. I guess that goes without saying. I don't mean to point out the obvious, but it was heavy in so many facets. And the episode that you're pointing to, which is really cool, is the one that we kind of ran back to James the Brain. And just to be able to honor him and run the episode back the last time that he had come on the Open Bar, which I believe was at the beginning of 2020. And he had passed back in the fall. And it was to be able to watch that back and have it be a experience where we had it playing on YouTube, so other people could come in and watch the show as it replayed, and I was able to rewatch and go back through those feelings that I was having and all those things. I mean, all those different things. I was so moved by the appreciation that a lot of folks gave in reference to that episode. Recognize how special this time is, right? Like, people, I don't know that people understand the time aspect of all this, is that it's not forever. We don't get to do this always. We don't get to do this. You might think that you'll be podcasting for years on end, or you might think that if you start a podcast now, you'll still be doing it next year. But life happens. Crazy stuff happens. People pass, and like, impact is real. Like, that impact is real. And to be able to go back and really share that, to show how special James is. Beer, cheese, soup, and a bread bowl forever. I'm a fan of that now because of James. But just to be able to share those experiences and recognize, like, this isn't forever. We cherish the time that we have now. Who knows how many times you and I'll get to chop it up again, Kyle? Like, enjoy this for what it is, the impact that it is right now, because you never know, for one reason or another, if we're ever going to do this again. So I think that's another thing that at the Open Bar we just take very seriously, and being grateful for the time that people share with us. Because I say this often, I think people probably get tired of me saying it, but man, you only get, like, you can be anywhere in the world. You can be listening to whatever else like you want to do. If someone takes the time, even if they listen to it on 1.5 or 2 times speed, right? If you take the time to listen to the Open Bar, like, thank you. You could be listening to Taylor Swift albums or like whatever it is, right? But you chose to spend that time and listen to us chop it up and be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and that's not something to take lightly ever.
And truthfully, gratefully enjoying your presence here, enjoying everyone who is watching, listening, and commenting. Really appreciate that. Latest question, actually, G-Man J, who part of the Going for Two crew, Thursday night lives, and now it's transitioned to a podcast with Upside. So check out Jay and Dan on that every Thursday. I know it's definitely entertaining. They had their first episode just last week, so it's new season for a lot of shows at Going for Two. Funny enough, this was the next question. So Jay, we're in sync apparently. But any tips for newer podcasters who are just getting started?
Yes, I have at least a couple. I'll try not to ramble here. When it comes to podcasting, one of the things that I feel like a lot of people will point to is that when they get in certain spaces, they want to have their own sound. They want to have their own feel, and they don't want to necessarily have something that sounds or feels like what everyone else is doing, right? And also, shout out, what's up, Jay? I hope you're well, man. Thank you for taking us out this evening. These good people. But one of the things that I would definitely shout out is making sure that you continue to get the repetitions at it. And as you continue to go forward, you will get more and more comfortable in whatever it is that your lane is or what you feel like your voice is. And so don't try to sound or do the things that everybody else is doing. Make sure that you're comfortable with what you're doing. And even if it's not something that you have perfected yet, just be encouraged with that as you go. Like it will continue to progress, and you will continue to progress if you put the time in with the repetitions. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It won't be perfect. You'll probably listen back sometimes and really hate what you hear, or you might listen back sometimes and think, man, why did I say that? Or why do I sound like that? What is going on? But as you continue to get more comfortable behind the mic, in front of the camera, whatever the case may be, I think you will find a comfort. You will find a peace that's pretty hard to beat once you start to carve out, hey, this is, this is feeling good. This is vibing. I feel comfortable about saying these things, and I don't feel comfortable about these other things. And I think building on strengths is something that's crucial when it comes to podcasting, because there's a million and one things that you can look at and say you wish you could have done better. But the things that you are doing well, or other people say that you do well, finding those trusted people to be able to help you in that process, I think is key. So find your own voice. And by doing that, you'll get more and more comfortable. Don't feel like you have to be like everybody else. And definitely find a circle, get with a group around you. And obviously it sounds like, Jay, you have that with the folks here at Going for Two, to be able to really build you up, to be able to encourage you, to be able to push you forward, and speak life into you as you continue through this journey. Because a lot of people may hate what you do, but obviously you can't worry about the folks that hate it. You have to lead into what you do, enjoy what you do, believe in what you do, and obviously surround yourself with folks who are going to encourage you in that too. So those would be my two major points.
Jay, even if your own co-host hates what you're doing, but that's the fun of that dynamic on that show. So, but yes, Jared makes a good point, actually. J. Mike, you are a very uplifting character, and part of your openness to the community is part of why I brought you on, but also positivity. Start on the right foot. I figured that's how the best way to get people to wanting to watch the show, make them feel good watching it, right? Thank you, Jeff, for joining us. Obviously, he appreciates Jay's question. I'm sure a lot of people do, actually. And questions are, it's funny because we look for answers, but sometimes questions are actually some of the more valuable things. So one question I wanted to ask you was, what is one question that you wished you would ask yourself earlier?
That's good. That's good. That's good. I would say that the question I wish I would have asked myself earlier is why? Like, why do this? It's cool to want to be a part of the community. It's cool to want to try to be able to produce good content. All those things are fun. But the why is kind of what sustains you through years like 2020, right? Where everything seems to be hitting the fan, where all the chips seem to be down often, and the world around you is chaotic and frustrating. So I wish that I would have asked previous me why. Like, okay, it's cool that you want to get involved in the community. It's cool that you want to produce content. It's cool that you want to be a part of something bigger than you. But like, why? Because if you don't have a why, I find it difficult to be able to say, hey, this is something to where you're going to stick with it. You're going to do it for if the chips get low, or if the situation gets rough, or whatever may come in life. Like, why do you do it? And one of my whys is one of them. I won't get into all of them, but one of them is to be able to uplift and encourage people, to be able to impact people. There's a lot of folks out here giving great content and giving fantastic information, And I know that that's like, I'm not grinding the numbers. I'm not grinding a lot of that information. I enjoy taking it in and I enjoy doing it when I have a chance, but I'm not building out spreadsheets like Peter Howard or, Dave Wright or a lot of those folks who are really, really, really hard at it in that sense. And I might grind some tape when it comes to like rookie evaluations and going back and watching games and whatnot. But that's not my why. My why is to be able to encourage, to be able to impact, to be able to lift people up, try to be able to be a beacon of hope in the community. So with that said, Senra, I'm going to flip this on its head for a second. What is your why? Why do you even do this?
It's funny because I like Jared's answer. I know why didn't I do this sooner? I would almost think the idea of fantasy football maybe because I've been playing, I guess now for 8 years, but I feel like I enjoyed numbers and stats and that type of team manipulation and even just studying starting lineups. I've really embraced that. So I think one of the things I've done recently, the last couple of years, is really tried to streamline my start process. Creating spreadsheets, trying to figure out with that, and I think part of it is asking why. Why do I like fantasy football so much? And I think one of them is actually making those start-sit decisions. I know a lot of people say it's the draft, but I really enjoy those. My Saturday night is being cool and trying to figure out who's going to start on Sunday. That's I guess enjoying that. Okay, try to make that process more numerical, less by feel. Okay, who am I judging here? So I've created a process that. So I think that's a why that I'd probably say the last 2 seasons I've done that more in terms of there. So I think that answered your question. I'm more concerned about my question. So
I know I'm not supposed to necessarily be asking the questions here, but I figured I'd ask. I thought it was a good time.
That's okay. I mean, more conversations, I'm hoping. I do like to talk, though, so I'll be open for conversations. So any hobbies outside of fantasy football that you want to share?
A lot of my time outside of fantasy space is spent with my family and trying to build into my daughters and my wife. And from a hobby perspective, I love music and I love writing. I like doing spoken word and performing some of that. And I in my other endeavor, I'm not trying to like plug my work or anything, but J Mike's Journal is a podcast where I get to it's way more therapeutic than it is anything else, but I just get to write and put my thoughts on paper and share those with the world, share my failures, share my successes, share my struggles, share life, and kind of let people know a lot of what I'm about and a lot of what I've experienced. And so writing is something that for me is incredibly therapeutic, and it allows me to be able to get a lot of what I have inside as an internal processor who's also most of the time a introvert. And it may be hard to believe with what we do with the open bar and whatnot, but I'm 100% an introvert at heart. And I am, if there's a party going on, you'll find me in the corner somewhere, posted up against the wall, away from everyone, just like kind of people watching or whatever the case is. But writing is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And that's my thing. That's my thing.
My wife's pretty brilliant, and she's talked about the idea of extrovert, introvert. Really, the only thing that really differentiates is how do you recharge. So you could be an introvert, but be incredibly friendly, want to spend a lot of time with people, but to get that recharge, you need that alone time space. So really, that's all extrovert introvert really means.
Yeah, and she obviously she's brilliant. She married you, so there's that. But even in the midst of that, I think that's exactly right. Being able to figure out how do I recharge? How do I be the best for everyone in my life? How do I be the best for me? And if I'm not getting that time to myself, it's probably I'm probably doing everyone a disservice. And you can typically tell. You can ask my wife and kids when that happens.
And I mean, I think Jared appreciated that you said family first, and Jay always talks about that. Jeff mentioned earlier in the comments the fantastic support group we have here at Going for Two. Appreciate all of you tuning in who are here. I know the big boss, Jeff, actually really liked that you asked the question, so guess you got the thumbs up and the approval. So you can ask as many questions as you want, apparently. I can't stop you.
Thank you for the green light, Jeff. I appreciate it, man.
So now we, I don't know if you could give me the green light on this one, but what's one thing that no one knows about you that you'd be willing to share?
One thing that no one knows about me. That is tough. And to buy myself some time here in open bar fashion, I'm flipping this on you, Senra. You've been on my podcast a few times. I've listened to you obviously on Full Press. I think the people need to know more about Kyle Senra. What's one thing that the good people of all the podcasts that you frequent or your listeners don't know about you?
I was wondering how many episodes I get in before someone actually asked it back. One episode, so there we go. Luckily, I was prepared. So, again, always like numbers, so much so that if you remember, coloring pencils tend to have numbers on them, right? I think yellow was number 1 or whatever. Usually packs of, I guess, 30. They had to be in numerical order all the time. If there was one pencil out of order, I know I had to take them all out and restart. So yeah, that's my answer there. I like numbers.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I shouldn't be shocked, and I'm not. But I think the thing that some might not know, or most might not know, it's not something I talk about a lot. I love to cook. That's something that is, again, you talk about something that just it brings a sense of peace, a sense of calm. Being able to make breakfast for my family in the morning, whether it be like pancakes is the thing that my kids love the most that I make. So I'm grateful for that. So that it's a really easy recipe for me. I do a little bit different things to give it a unique flavor, which they love, which is I'm grateful for. But, being able to make things in the kitchen is something that I absolutely love doing, and I don't let anybody outside of my household know that. So I've now opened that up to everyone who will be listening to this. No, I'm not making anything. No, I'm not doing anything from the country. No, I'm not.
So apparently Jay's in agreement with you, doubling up with Mickey Mouse pancakes for the kids. So
there we go. Well done, Jay. Well done.
Now, if J Mike, after the J question, J Mike, there's the transition. If you could interview any person in all of history, who would you like to have, we'll say, on the open bar?
Man, this is tough. There is, I feel like there are a ton of people, and how appropriate is today. But one of the people that I would absolutely love to be able to have time with, to pick their brain, would be Martin Luther King Jr. And a lot of the things that obviously he stood for, whether it be equality, whether it be Jesus Christ, whether it be family, whether it be encouragement, whether it be bringing people together, like all of those things, I would love to be able to pick his brain about and talk through a lot of those struggles and everything that he went through and things that he was a part of, and the folks that he partnered and collaborated with, locked arms with, to be able to bring about change, for us to be able to have this moment now, right? So they're like it's the little things. We get this moment in part because of sacrifices of he and so many others around his time, and actually before him in sense. So he would be one person I'd love to interview. I do want to bring one football player into this. I would love to interview, and he's my absolute not. I've got two favorite players. One that's current, who's probably going to be retired very soon, and then one who I feel like does not get near enough shine. Larry Fitzgerald. I know I'm breaking the rules of one person, so I apologize. Making my own rules.
Well, to be fair, I said an open bar episode, and there's usually at least 3 guests, so you're actually allowed 3. So there you go.
Without question. So Larry Fitzgerald, one of my favorite players. I talk about a guy that just does it with class. It's fantastic and all those good things. But also Edgerrin James, running back, most famously for the Indianapolis Colts with Peyton Manning, and before his injury, just how dynamic he was, and just an absolute freak running back that he was. I would love to be able to prick his brain and talk about his experience. Excuse me. Obviously, even in Miami, his time in college, but also through his professional journey. And when people look back, I don't think he gets near enough shine that he deserves on his career. So I think that'd be a lot of fun to be able to do. Well, that's good. That's good, dude.
Yeah, Edgerrin James. I mean, Colts, especially as a rookie, right, came out like amazing rookie production as a Colts rookie running back, amazing athletic talent. Wait a minute. So I wonder if John, I wonder how close. I wonder how close to James though, but legitimately Taylor can become and maybe even surpass that. But I know I'm quite high on Jonathan Taylor. Jared would ask Eli, or he would interview Eli and ask how he beat Brady twice in his prime.
Yeah, I think that would be great to hear, and especially like I would love to know what was going through Eli Manning's brain when he's basically bottled up in the pocket, somehow escapes and gets rid of the ball to David Tyree. Like that's one of the more insane and improbable moments in football history, and for him to be able to have the wherewithal to not just cradle, right? Like a lot of times we see Peyton Manning, like people are going to sack him and he just kind of falls, right? It's like, nope, you guys aren't hurting me. And that's just outstanding.
I know Gerson likes the Larry Fitzgerald love. Good to see G on here. Gerson, again, part of the Going for Two, does the DFS shows Friday nights, joins in Sunday mornings as well. So, appreciate everything Gerson does. I think I think we've danced around fantasy enough. This is as much as I do like to get to know J Mike the person. Let's get to some fantasy talk here. So, maybe controversial topic. What are your thoughts on zero RB?
I feel like people on both sides have their pitchforks ready. Like, what is he about to say right now? I can't wait to screw him. What'd you say his Twitter handle was? I can't wait to light his mentions up. Like, calm down, everybody. Relax.
It's also written in the description if you don't have to remember it. Sorry.
See this again. Yeah. So, yes, I'm a fan of zero RB, and it's not something that I necessarily live by or like am subscribed to with reckless abandon. However, the idea behind it in terms of the anti-fragility and being able to scoop up a lot of value, and especially this past season was a great win for the zero RB folks with regards to a lot of the top RBs going down or falling to the wayside or just becoming frankly unusable in the fantasy space. And we saw all these wide receivers that you were getting at a value just absolutely crush. I think that it is a viable strategy. I'm a fan of it, but I'm not going to sit here and say like, "Hey, it's my lifestyle." It's zero RB or bust. But yeah, what do you land on that, Senra? Zero RB.
So in terms of what I like to do, it's the back end of the strategy, the pickup, running backs late that you think could easily access a job. It's the predictability, the usability. I think Peter Howard and Scott Connor just did an episode of Dynasty and Chill where they talked about that concept. So that's a good episode to check out. But essentially, guys like Mike Davis, who was a heartbeat away from a huge role. We didn't necessarily know that, but in hindsight, where's the injury? I mean, the Barkley injury eventually opened up Wayne Gallman as that type of role, and Gallman had weeks where you knew when to start him. You knew when Freeman came in, but then got hurt, and it really became him. So there's more predictability as opposed to which wide receiver is going to break out this week. It's tough to know that. So I like one thing I did a lot actually in 2020 was the modified zero RB. You take one early, a lot of times in the first round, and then waiting till 7th, 8th round to get your second RB, and then hit through round 7 through 12, maybe 3 or 4 more times you're hitting running back, and that's how you're going to stream your RB2. and every other position you have, you're filling up with target hogs. I think, again, back to Scott Connor, something he says this year. Any strategy could have worked. You just had to pick the right player. If you went running back early with Barkley or McCaffrey, not so much. But if you went with Cook or Kamara, you rocked it. If your first round wide receiver was Michael Thomas, not so good. Devontae Adams, it was amazing. So it was just about picking the right players more than anything.
Yeah, and even with those running backs that you just said, even with Cook and Kamara, remember how tenuous of a situation we were dealing with those guys at the beginning of the year when both of them were looking for contracts and both of them, I believe, ended up getting the contracts. But I think Kamara had an issue with his back. Cook wasn't fully healthy. There were just questions littered abound. And so it's like you just said, obviously, and I've listened to the same podcast with Scott and with Peter in terms of, hey, if you pick the right players, you win, right? You pick the right players, you can hit a home run in that way. But one of the things that I love to be able to do specifically with wide receivers, I don't like to try to guess targets. So this is where zero RB is fantastic, is that if I'm going even with a modified version of zero RB or what people will call it, because I know people hate to hear, oh, well, modified zero RB, it's not really zero RB. And okay, what semantics at that point, right? But the idea that I can lean into a Devontae Adams, I can lean into a Keenan Allen, I can lean into these guys that I know are getting double-digit targets weekly. I don't have to try to wait and choose for the right Marvin Jones game. I don't have to try to wait and pick and choose to see whether or not, I don't know, insert name here of wide receiver 3 or whomever who might pop their head up. So those consistent targets, those folks who are definitely locked and loaded. And again, obviously, injury can strike anyone, but those are the things that I don't like to try to guess. If I can supplement my teams with pass catching RBs or RB might come out of nowhere, like I said, or lower valued RBs that we can get later in our drafts to be able to even start for me, because we know that they'll be getting the work whenever that time does come. If their number is called or someone in front of them goes down, like a Mike Davis, you don't have to worry about, okay, do I run Mike Davis? No, you start Mike Davis, because now CMC's gone and they're giving Mike Davis all of the work. Those are the things I feel really good about. It's not, and you don't necessarily have all those 1-for-1 comparisons with a team like, with the wide receiver position. So that's not something I try to fight against in that sense.
I know Yeti Express talking, people say 0 RB versus 2 RB Hunt to Chubb, right? Like it could have, on Cleveland, you could have done it either way, and it would have worked both ways, right? If you waited until 5th, 6th, or maybe 5th round, probably 4th round, perhaps, to get Hunt as your RB1 and, get 3 target hogs, either wide receiver or tight end, that probably worked really well for you. But again, it is funny. John McGlynn, a great comment here of how the strategy itself worked well in the sense that, got Antonio Gibson round 15. That's an amazing play, but Chris Godwin over Kamara, not the right play. But again, it was not the strategy that was the fault. It's just I think as a community all underestimated Kamara. I sold during a rookie draft Kamara straight up for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I try to go. If I go back to Robbie McPhee and try to get Kamara back, there's no way I'm getting it for just Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So that was not so good on my part, that one. So I think that was what you were mentioning, the contract. I think at that point it was probably May when we did that. So Kamara still not signed long term, not really sure the long term future. Who's the quarterback? And it's the Chiefs running back. Right. As a rookie, right? We all underestimated Kamara a little too much. So, J. Mike, what is your preferred league format?
Preferred league format, and I am. This is something I feel like I've grown over the last few years to really enjoy. Superflex, 100%, and I'm a huge fan of Dynasty. Dynasty's become my preferred method of playing in general. SBX, SB is nice, and charity leagues are fun and those things in terms of redraft, but those are not my preferred ways of playing. So Dynasty, Superflex, and I love the idea of having to start one at each position. So like one running back, one wide receiver, one tight end, and a bunch of flex spots. start 10, 11, 12 people, but you've got to start one in each position and at Superflex. and I love the variability that allows you to be able to build. I love the fact that it allows folks to be able to build however they want to. If it's a case where you want to go RB heavy, like go nuts. Get all the RBs you can get. Get your Zekes and your Miles Sanders. Turn around and get, James Conner and whoever else you want. Like, go for it. You want to be able to build a modified zero RB. If you want to be able to go zero RB and just flood your team with, whatever you want to do. Like, and I love that format because, again, you're not locked into trying to say, okay, this 12-team league, if I don't have one of these hammers at the top with running back, like I don't have a chance. So it just allows you to be able to build in any way that you like, anyway, and even if it comes to a team that you might be picking up as an orphan, or it allows folks to be able to format or build just however they see fit. So that's probably my favorite format. And even one of the things I'm even enjoying a lot that we instituted into the Open Bar Best Ball-ish Charity League is when you get to the playoffs, kind of like, okay, top 4 scorers advance to the next week. Okay, top 2 scorers advance to the next week. I don't know the name for that. What is that, like pooled scoring? Maybe I don't know what you call that, but that's one of my new favorite findings of late that I didn't know existed previously in terms of what people did, not head to head for playoffs, but
play all, I think they call it.
Okay, yeah,
play all.
play something, play everybody, like whatever you want to call it. Like I thoroughly enjoy that.
Yeah, it takes out the randomness, the matchup of, I was the second highest this week, but I played the guy who was the highest, and it just, yeah. You're right that does definitely take out that element. I mean, I didn't have to worry about the playoffs in the Open Bar Best Ball Charity League, so that wasn't a concern for me. Okay, so on top of format, I suppose what you just said I would enter technically be the rule setting. In terms, like, that was the next question. So I suppose you could count that if you want the playoff, not head to head, but instead being play all. But if there's another rule or setting that you want to talk about, think people should have.
Yeah, I've got two. One from a scoring format and one just from a general league format. So scoring, I am all for tight end premium, and I get the argument that people are like, well, it doesn't change how they score against each other. Like, right, good tight ends will still be good tight ends, and bad tight ends will still not be bad tight ends. But what I do love about that is how it leverages against everybody else. So all the other positions in the league. So whether it be running backs or wide receivers, and making those flex spots more valuable. It comes to, all right, if we're looking at 1.75 for reception for tight ends, all of a sudden a lot more guys become viable, and all of a sudden it makes decisions between flex spots really interesting when you're looking at, okay, am I playing Michael Gallup this week, or am I playing Logan Thomas? And once upon a time, like, you're not going to think about even playing Logan Thomas in those spots. However, it's one of those really interesting things that people have to look at now when that becomes. So tight end premium scoring, I'm a fan of. And the other thing is just no trade deadlines. Somewhere right now, I know that an angel has just gotten its wings because Russ Fisher is very happy with me. Shout out to Dynasty Outhouse. He is very happy that I am shouting out no trade deadline. I am such a fan of people being able to better their rosters at any point throughout the season, specifically via trade. So if somebody wants to mortgage, the next season, or mortgage their future with a trade to be able to help them out in the playoffs, that's their prerogative. If someone wants to be able to basically go through a rebuild or do whatever they want to do, like I just want people, obviously, if they've paid some sort of entry fee or whatever the case may be, to be able to build their rosters and do the things they want to do via trade. I don't like when that's limited at all. So I'm a huge fan of no deadline. So those would be my two major things.
So John's asking actually about 4 divisions, 3 teams each, and each division winners get in, and then the highest scorers are both the 2 wild card teams in 5th and 6th place. So what would you think about that type of league setting?
Let's work backwards. When we're looking at the wild cards being for high scores, I'm all for that. I'm all for wild cards being high scores. I think that's always a good thing. The divisions in general, I'm not necessarily against. However, the divisions mean so much more when you're playing in a league that like everybody knows everybody or everyone's very close with everyone. Like, and just as an example, in my league that I mentioned earlier, where I commissioned for my college teammates, right? So we've been doing this for what I think 12 years now. Back when we were in college playing ball together, and obviously it's cool because now we all live in different places and we can have divisions based on where we live. And so that's a lot of fun to be able to talk junk and say, hey, I'm, the North, I'm running the North. Like, you guys stink. I've won the North 3 straight years, of whatever the case may be. And to be able to talk and have that camaraderie, that rivalry, that's a lot of fun. So when you have divisions, you want them to be something where people can lean into and really embrace. Like, okay, I'm in this division with these other two, not just because it's random, not just because this sounds good and it's nice for formatting, but when it means something for the divisions to actually be something, I think that it makes sense. But if it's just a league where it's just the default and you just randomly put people together, I don't know that it has the same impact. And I don't know that it's going to be as enjoyable for everyone to see certain teams make the playoffs because they won a division that may have been lackluster, for lack of a better word, and another teams are falling out. So I know that's what the wild card scores tries to leverage against, but that would be my take on that format.
Just to add to the divisions, one of my older leagues, technically I guess my oldest dynasty league, we do 2 divisions, and every year it's a different theme, and each division is its own theme. And it's so this 2020, it was one division was Star Wars, the other one was Star Trek. So all the team names in Star Wars division were Star Wars theme, and Star Trek on the other. So, things like that add to the like you said, the camaraderie aspect, and really, less important to the actual functioning of the league. I think we all like the divisions there mostly just for that aspect every year, and the 2 themes, and whoever wins the league decides which division is. So I believe so the person who was in the Star Wars division was in my division and chose Star Wars over Star Trek, so good job, Nick Andrews. And I was thinking this as soon as you were mentioning that too about the camaraderie. John McGlynn, again, I just listened to this episode of the GOAT District where he mentioned that, but he mostly does his leagues live, 12 live leagues, so he knows the people he's drafted with, or at least he's meeting them at the very least at the draft for the first time. But I feel like he knows a lot of people he's drafted with, so in that sense, it makes a lot of sense for that aspect. You talked about diving back, Edgerrin James a little bit, but I don't know if he'll make this cut, but all-time fantasy team. Who's your all-time fantasy quarterback 1, RB 1, wide receiver 1, and tight end 1?
All right. I thought long and hard about this when I saw this, and I'm all right. Deep breath. Probably going to make some people upset. We'll see how it goes. All-time fantasy QB 1. Is it crazy for me to just really love the fact that Aaron Rodgers does everything that you want a QB1 to do, like even now, like between his legs, giving you a little bit with his legs, between diming up people left and right. I wanted to say Peyton Manning. I wanted to say Lamar Jackson just because I'm a fan. But I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers here. Aaron Rodgers is my QB, all-time fantasy QB1. And he reminded us this season why he's the man. RB1, LaDainian Tomlinson, you can go argue with a wall. I mean, you can do everything you'd like to do with that. Go for it. All-time wide receiver 1. I feel like there was a time, and it's hard to go wrong with this one, between Jerry Rice, between Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson. There's probably a couple others that you could sprinkle in. Growing up, I remember playing Tecmo Bowl on Nintendo with my brother, and I would literally take the San Francisco 49ers just so I could put Jerry Rice running back and just do all the crazy stuff. Like, I loved it. Jerry Rice was the all-time receiver 1. Tight end becomes a lot more fun. You've got a lot of fun candidates. You've got Jimmy Graham in his heyday. You've got Gronk. You've got Tony Gonzalez. But I'm actually going to go with Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is on a run like no other. I think it's like five or six straight years as the tight end one. Like what? that's crazy. And so not just a tight end one, the tight end one, like the at the top of the heap. So I'm gonna go Kelsey there as my tight end. So I think that's a really formidable team that I've just compiled.
Which would Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would want to face that starting lineup. And I mean, the thing with Kelsey is it's not just a Mahomes thing. I mean, that's 2 years where Alex Smith is the starter where that happens too. So it's definitely, Kelsey definitely deserves some credit there. I believe it is 5 straight seasons. And as we get to that, talk about the high fives. So 5 different questions, top 5 for each. Exciting, so go with the high five. I mean, and I think this actually kicks off really well for you, J. Mike. You mentioned you really like music. It was when you first mentioned hobby, asked that question. Is one of the first words that came out of your mouth was music. So, what are your top 5 albums?
This is absolutely hard when it comes to just narrowing it down to albums. So I'm gonna switch this question a little bit, and I'm gonna give you my top 5 artists because it's really difficult to nail down albums. So top 5, you can put them in whatever order you like. Huge fan of Andy Mineo, huge fan of his. Outkast, again, if you don't like Outkast, you can go argue with the wall. God bless you, keep it moving, kick rocks. Outkast is up there. I am a huge Leslie Odom fan, Leslie Odom Jr. Famous for his work in Hamilton and other things. Like he's Sam Cooke in the new movie One Night in Miami by Regina King. Like he talk about someone with just an outstanding voice. Huge fan. I think next up, I would be remiss if my high school self wouldn't tell you anything R&B from Boys to Men specifically. Putting together mixtapes of and swooning in high school. Boys to Men would be a huge one for me, just in terms of my R&B love at that time. And I'm also a huge oldies fan. So anything Motown, like Temptations, you name it. I am here for any and all Motown that you can give me. So those would be my top 5.
You mentioned you also like to write. By the way, those are great. Sorry, I just Fall Out Boy hit different for me apparently.
No, how did I leave Fall Out Boy off? Oh man, I might have to revisit. I also love Fall Out Boy. Shout out to you, Jim.
Take 2. Anyway, so you mentioned you like to write. Assuming you probably also like to read. Hope that's not a bad assumption. But what are your top 5 books?
Yep. Unoffendable by Brant Hansen. Huge fan of Brant Hansen and his work. Purpose Driven Life. Huge fan of that. My wife and I, one of the books that we typically have to go back to and touch on is The Crazy Cycle. And essentially that's just in reference to love and respect and how what we need from each other in terms of our relationship. New book I just recently got into called Gentle and Lowly by Dave Portland. Huge fan of that. And lastly, one of my other favorites is the Screw Tape Letters, C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis does some fantastic writing as well. So that's 5, right? Yeah, that was 5.
Yeah, you said 5. Yeah, and hopefully enlightening people as well. So write these things down. Wait, this is being recorded, so you can.
Yes.
So top 5 favorite movies.
And this is tough because as I've gotten older, the more and more that I enjoy movies and the impact that they have. So this will be tough. One of my top 5 will definitely be Black Panther. That was iconic for a plethora of reasons. But Chadwick Boseman, man, just about whatever he does is outstanding. He does fantastic work. 42, obviously the other movie that he's in as he's Jackie Robinson. I love that movie as well. I am a huge fan of Antoine Fisher, which was Denzel Washington's directorial debut. That was a guy with the Navy. The guy who was trying to get, it's an outstanding story. You should check it out. Also a fan of a movie that Cuba Gooding starred in. I don't forgot the name of it. Him and Tommy Lee Jones. He's a Navy SEAL diver. Oh, why is that escaping me? I don't know why that's escaping me. I apologize. I'll look that up here in a minute. But that's another one of my favorites, and one that my kid and I have gotten into of late that they have thoroughly enjoyed was the movie Soul. It just came out on Disney Plus. That's an outstanding movie. Absolutely outstanding movie. I'm gonna have to figure out that Cuba Gooding Jr. movie because that's bothering me. Oh, Men of Honor. I have to look at Men of Honor. Him, Tommy Lee Jones. Outstanding film.
All right, excellent. Again, more cultured. I think just to speak on Black Panther, you mentioned the impact and Chadwick's performance, but so well directed, but also the music for that movie, the way they incorporated so many different styles of music. I work with someone who's from Africa. He's from Nigeria, actually. Patrick Pilla. We do some stuff through Yama Yama Sound, and the rhythmic percussion stuff that he comes up with, and then listening to the soundtrack for that movie, it gave me the same type of sentiments, and it really felt like they nailed it genuinely.
The whole feel of that, the entire feel of that movie was, I don't know, it just as the kids say, it hits different. I know Jay said, well, it just hits different. It was great.
Yeah, I think the response from that too. So many people coming out, going to see in theaters. How many people were wearing African gear and robes, traditional cloths, and it see the pride from it. Tremendous global impact too. We sometimes get caught in our own world here in North America. How intense we are about fantasy football, and yes, we do have some partners overseas. I mean, up in Canada, we still play fantasy up here too. But the true, I'm sure that hit the whole world with crazy impact. So now, again, talking about I guess no matter where you are in the world, there's sports, and wherever there's sports, there's celebration. Usually, that means there's food involved. So, in the J Mike household, what are the top 5 game day foods?
Yeah, my wife is a big fan of getting some appetizers when it comes to when it comes to game day. So some of my favorites, jalapeno poppers. They are so underrated. Man, jalapeno poppers are so good. Cheese sticks. Continuing with the cheese vibe, like I'm here for just about any and all of the dairy, and my stomach always hates me for it later. Buffalo wings. How can you go wrong? Nachos. Huge fan of loaded nachos. Not like with some like garbage beef on it. I mean like garbage, like weird meat on it. Like legitimate nachos with like good beef on it is always a win. And probably my absolute favorite, to put the cherry on top, will be pizza. Not just any pizza, and listen, don't get me wrong, I love pizza, but good pizza. So not just kind of any old pizza doesn't necessarily just do it. It can't just be your random out of the box pizza. It's got to be whatever you consider as a really good pizza. That's a major win for me.
I know Jared's got a few opinions to share. He likes the Knives Out movie. Rian Johnson does some good things. Does some awful things, too, to Star Wars. Game time foods, summer sausage, cheese, pulled pork. I'm getting really hungry, honestly. This episode's almost over for that. I'm not glad that our time's almost done because I do enjoy talking to you, J Mike. So, I mean, I guess we do end the high five. We got to bring it down a little bit. So, but maybe this is also an educational tool here. So, what are the top 5 worst fantasy football rules or settings? And maybe we can educate our listeners, viewers to some things to avoid in their own leagues.
Yes, number 1, and this is kind of twisting. My first one is going to twist kind of how we look at this. So, first off, people shaming other people in terms of the leagues that they like. So if it's an 8-man, a 10-man, if it's standard, like don't shame other people for the standards. I mean, for the league they want to be in. They enjoy that. That's what their homies enjoy. Everybody can get together and enjoy those things. Go for it. Enjoy those things. But don't shame other people in saying like, hey, these things are terrible. Like nobody should do them. That's whack. With that said, I'm a very big fan of PPR in some kind of sense. So the leagues where we don't offer PPR, you're probably not going to find me in those. You're also probably not going to find me in moving forward in any other league. So if you ask them about startups or anything, you're not going to necessarily find me in leagues with starting 2 tight ends. I have walked that path. I have thoroughly not enjoyed that path, and I do not want to continue try to walk that out. Continuing forward, 1 quarterback leagues. I get why a lot of listeners really enjoy that. Wonderful. And again, if you love it, go for it. God bless you. Wish you nothing but the best. But not my favorite thing to have to deal with. And last, but certainly not least, leagues that do not offer a flex position at all. So like the 2 RB, 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end. I'm in 1 league left, and I don't know how much I'm going to be in that league, but it's with a lot of dope people that I enjoy, a lot of friends of my family. So perhaps that one will continue. I don't know. That might be the one that I have to continue to endure. But when you do not offer flex spots, it just brings so much sadness to me when we have to do that. So those would be my 5. I would say.
Is anyone from that league listening tonight? If you are, put a flex spot in. That's all you need.
I am very confident, and because I bring it up every year to try to be able to get that changed, and every year they shoot me down over and over. So it encompasses so many other things that make me sad. So it's standard, so there's no PPR, and it's 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and like I begged them to switch one of those wide receivers to flex. Okay, sweet, y'all don't want to do that? Can we add 1 flex position? Okay, great. Like I've tried it any which way, and it gets voted down every single year. And I think that it's just going to be the league where I just have to press on.
Oh yeah. So has anyone ever, whenever you keep proposing, has anyone ever told you stop trying to flex? Has that ever been a response?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's an ongoing joke about people being stuck in their ways, people being dinosaurs, people. Essentially not wanting change and not wanting to move forward. We make these jabs every year, and every year they don't care. They're all about their 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and of course, why would we do PPR? This is terrible. So yeah, it's an uphill battle every year that I lose. So I put my hard hat on every year with the hopes that I will make headway, and I just don't. Sadness.
Well, I think we've made good headway. For anyone who didn't know you before, they now know J Mike. Know him quite well. And to anyone who did know you before, I'm sure it's very entertaining to hear you talk as always. I'm sure anyone who hears you once probably doesn't want it to be the last time they hear you. I know I look forward to every open bar, every J Mike's journal, every Dummy Blitz. Dummy Blitz. Such a good song. Shout out to Zach there.
Shout out to Zach, indeed. Yes.
Yeah. The parody songs, they're the best. Shout out to Gladys, who apparently is shouting out to us. Thanks for saying it was a great show. I hoped it was. Just doing our best here, trying to get through the fantasy world. And just like you do, J Mike, as I mentioned, you do your best to bring the community together. Again, you and Gabe started up the Open Bar Best Ball Charity League. So I know. Gave a lot of proceeds there to a very worthy cause, and yeah. So I think that's an ask of the community in general is the charity aspects to leagues. It really feels good to help out with that, and any of your leagues that you are doing a buy-in, consider a certain percentage to charity every year. Yeah, in all your leagues, and make every league a charity league, really, and not make that sort of the exception. It'd be kind of the goal ultimately. But is there anything that besides that you would like to ask the community? I know you like asking questions.
I don't know that I have a question. More of a challenge for the community, just to encourage somebody, love on somebody. It oftentimes costs you very little to care. Right? Sometimes it costs very little to really care about those the lives of the folks that we even are in these leagues with, these folks that we DM every day, these folks that we chop it up with in leagues. It costs very little to ask how someone's doing and to really mean that, and to put yourself out there to be able to encourage other people. So a challenge would be obviously to surround yourself with people who are shooting for the same bullseyes that you are. And my challenge would also be to surround yourself with people that encourage you, and people that you can encourage to be able to be their best. And whatever that looks like in their day-to-day lives, like parenthood, work, tape grinding, data mining, whatever the case may be, find people, surround yourself with people. That is a great challenge, to be able to walk in community with other people. And I think that is that is something that we could use a lot more of to be able to move us forward as a community and as people. So that would be my challenge. I don't have any more questions, but my challenge would be to surround yourself with those kind of people who are going to help you move forward, and you can help them move forward as well in life.
Fantasy football, we're always trying to challenge each other, right? The competitiveness, make the competition your positivity. Try and be, as certainly as positive as J-Mike. If you could do that, I'm sure you'd be very happy. I'm positive. That.
Yeah, just try your best. There's so much in life, man. You don't have to look hard, right? We don't have to look hard for the things that bring us down. Like, you don't have to try to search those things out. We have plenty of that. So be the change. Be the change.
Thank you, John, for joining. John McGlynn. Love the non-point scoring season podcast. Let's see the human side, and certainly that's the point of this show in particular. That's kind of the main purpose of it. Press coverage. We want to cover everything in a full manner. With some football talk, of course, at the end. But we appreciate absolutely everything. I know I certainly appreciate you, J-Mike, for coming on. Again, that's at JMike Check. Check out the Open Bar. Check out the Don't Blitz, which is part of the DFPN, or at work, best at work out there. I think I said it right. And then J-Mike Journal, of course, for more, I guess, this inside perspective on the person who is J-Mike.
All those things. Again, Kyle, thank you for having me. I'm grateful for this time. Thank you. I don't know. I hope I didn't embarrass you on this first episode of your new endeavor. So hopefully people will check it out and get to know you more, and get to know, obviously, all the great people that you'll be speaking with in the future too. But thank you. I am honored. I am grateful. I am certainly. I don't take this lightly. So again, I'm so appreciative of the time. Thank you.
I mean, and again, if you embarrassed me and people enjoyed it, as a good host, I should embrace that, right? So, like, I'm vulnerable to whatever punishment or gifts that the guests decide to give. So again, appreciate the gift that you gave us all for joining. Appreciate all the viewers, listeners. Love you too, Gladys. Appreciate all the love and positivity from the fantasy community. Once again, this is all through Going for Two. Check out all of our content. I mentioned Podcast and Upside. Gladys is going to be doing a debate style show, so that'll be fun to watch once that kicks off. I believe right around the Super Bowl. Gladys can correct me if I'm wrong there. So lots coming this summer. This off season. If you're a little early to talk about summer yet. Sorry about that.
Slow down, Kyle. Slow down.
If anyone's listening in Australia, I'm sure they appreciate the shout out to their current situations.
Finally, some respect down under.
Definitely not the case in Canada. It's quite a lot of snow here. So I guess I'm embarrassing myself at the end of the show. So, J-Mike, don't worry. It's not you. It's me. But anyway, thank you all. Again, this will be probably about every 2 weeks here at Press Coverage. For anyone who wants to reach anything Going for Two, it's at Going for Two, at Going for Two Live, at Jeff Lambert 77 for the big boss. Everything Going for Two runs through there. Goingfor2.com. And I'm at Senra Says. So if you have any questions for guests, upcoming topics, any guests in particular, you can reach me there. Feedback much appreciated. I do love the comments in the chat, of course. And again, end it with I love you all. Thank you for watching the premiere episode of Press Coverage, and thank you, J. Mike.